The storm came without warning. The sea was wild that night. Waves crashed against the small rescue boat again and again. Rain fell hard, and the wind screamed like something angry in the dark. Most ships had already returned to shore, but Evan was still out there. He worked as a night rescuer, and he hated leaving people behind. The radio kept making noise. A warning repeated again and again. Storm getting worse. All units return. Evan looked at the black water around him. Lightning flashed across the sky, turning the ocean white for just a second. Then everything went dark again. He was about to turn the boat around when he saw something. At first, he thought it was a broken ship. Something large moved between the waves. Too large. It rose and disappeared again as the sea swallowed it. Evan slowed the engine. Another flash of lightning lit the sky. This time, he saw it clearly. It was not a ship. It was a woman. A giant woman. She floated in the water, half under the waves. Her body moved slowly with the sea, like she had no strength left. Her skin looked pale in the storm light, and her long hair spread across the water like dark seaweed. Evan stared in shock. His mind refused to understand what he was seeing. No human could be that big. The radio suddenly came alive. Unidentified object detected near your location. Do not approach. Evan did not answer. He could not stop looking at her. She looked alive. Barely. Another wave hit her, pushing her under the water for a moment. She did not fight back. If he left now, she would drown. His hands tightened on the steering wheel. Every rule told him to go back. This was not normal. This was dangerous. But Evan had seen too many people die because help came too late. He made his decision. Before he could change his mind, he tied a rope around his waist and jumped into the freezing sea. The cold hit him like a wall. The waves pushed him down, and salt water filled his mouth. He forced himself to swim forward. Each wave felt heavier than the last. When he finally reached her, he realized how huge she really was. Her arm alone was bigger than his entire body. He touched her skin. It was warm, too warm for someone lost in cold water. For a moment, the storm seemed to quiet around them. The wind softened. The waves slowed. Then her eyes opened. They were not normal eyes. They glowed faintly, like light hidden underwater. She looked at him with confusion, then pain. Her lips moved. She whispered something, but the words were strange. Evan did not understand the language. Still, he felt something in her voice. Fear. Her eyes closed again. Evan pulled on the rope, signaling the boat's auto wincher to pull them closer. It was slow and difficult. The giant woman barely moved, but somehow the water around her became calmer, almost helping him. As they moved toward the boat, Evan felt something change. The sea felt wrong. Too quiet. The storm was still above them, but below the surface, there was silence. Then he felt it, a deep vibration in the water, something moving far beneath them. Evan turned his head and looked into the dark ocean. For a second, he saw nothing, only black water. Then lightning flashed again, and for that 1 second, he saw a massive shadow under the sea. It was moving toward them, slow, controlled, watching. Evan's heart started to race. Whatever it was far bigger than the giant woman he was trying to save. The rope pulled tighter, dragging them closer to the boat. Evan forced himself not to look back again. He focused on breathing, on moving, on surviving. But the feeling did not leave. Something was following them, something that had been waiting. As the boat finally pulled them out of the water, the sea behind them rose slightly, like something enormous had just turned beneath the surface. Evan looked back one last time. The ocean was dark again, empty. But deep down, he knew one thing. Saving her was not the end of the danger. It was only the beginning. Morning came slowly after the storm. The sea looked calm now, almost peaceful, as if nothing strange had happened during the night. But Evan knew what he had seen. He knew it was real. The giant woman lay inside an old abandoned shipyard near the coast. It was the only place big enough to hide her. Broken ships and rusted metal walls protected the area from curious eyes. Evan had dragged large covers and nets over her body, hoping no one would notice. He had not slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he remembered the shadow in the water. The giant woman was still unconscious. Her breathing was slow but steady. Up close, she looked even stranger. Her skin was smooth, almost glowing under sunlight. Faint lines ran across her arms and neck, like soft blue marks under the skin. Sometimes they shined for a second, then faded again. Evan did not understand how she was alive. No human body could survive a storm like that. He stepped closer, checking her pulse again. Warm, strong, too strong. Suddenly, her fingers moved. Evan stepped back in surprise. Her eyes slowly opened. The soft glow returned, brighter this time. She looked around, confused, like someone waking in a strange world. For a moment, fear crossed her face. She tried to sit up, but pain stopped her. The ground shook slightly as her body moved. Evan raised his hands slowly, trying to show he meant no harm. "It's okay," he said softly. "You're safe." She stared at him. Her eyes studied his face carefully, as if trying to understand what he was. She spoke again, the same strange language from the sea. The words sounded deep and musical, but Evan could not understand. She noticed his confusion and stopped. Then she pointed at herself. "Lyra," she said slowly. Evan nodded. "Lyra." Then she pointed at him, waiting. "Evan." She repeated his name quietly, like it was new to her. For a short moment, everything felt calm. But the peace did not last. A loud sound echoed from far away. Helicopters. Evan froze. He walked outside and looked toward the horizon. 2 military helicopters moved along the coastline, flying low over the water. Searching. His stomach tightened. News about strange waves and missing boats had already started spreading online. Someone must have seen something during the storm. When Evan returned inside, Lyra was trying to stand again. Fear filled her eyes now. She looked toward the sea again and again. She shook her head slowly. "No, no ocean," she said in broken words. Evan frowned. "You're afraid of the sea?" Her expression changed. Not fear for herself, fear of something else. That night, the air felt heavy. The wind stopped completely. Even the sound of waves felt weaker. Evan sat near the entrance, watching the dark water in the distance. Then he heard it, a deep sound, like something calling from far below. Lyra rited instantly. Her eyes opened wide. The glowing lines on her skin became brighter. She looked at Evan, panic clear on her face. "They coming," she said, struggling with the words. Evan felt cold. "Who is coming?" She tried to explain, but her voice shook. She looked toward the ocean again, then back at him. "Because me." The ground trembled slightly. Not from the wind, not from machines, from the sea. Evan slowly turned toward the water. The calm surface moved unnaturally, as if something large was rising from deep below. Behind him, Lyra whispered again, her voice filled with guilt. "I should not be here." Evan's heart beat faster as he realized the truth. Saving her had not ended the danger. It had brought the danger to them. The night felt heavier than before. Evan could not sleep. The sound from the sea stayed in his head, deep and slow, like something breathing far below the water. The air inside the shipyard felt cold, even though the night was not. Lyra sat quietly near the broken wall, watching the ocean. The soft blue lines on her skin glowed again and again. Like a warning, she could not stop. Evan finally spoke. "What is coming?" Lyra stayed silent for a long time. She looked tired, not only in body but in spirit. When she spoke again, her words were slow and careful. "Not animal," she said. "Not storm." She touched her chest. "Hunter." Evan frowned. "Something is hunting you." She nodded. Lyra tried to explain using simple words. Her people did not live on land like humans. They lived in deep oceans on another world, far from Earth. Their cities were built underwater, hidden in darkness. They were peaceful, she said. They avoided war. But something found them, a creature older than their history, something that followed energy and life across planets. It did not think like humans. It only hunted. Her people tried to fight it. Many died. Lyra escaped with a small group, hoping to lead it away from her home. Their ship was damaged near Earth. She fell into the ocean during the crash. Evan slowly understood the truth. "You didn't escape it," he said quietly. Lyra shook her head. Her eyes filled with sadness. "It followed." Outside, the ocean made a low sound again, deeper this time. The metal walls of the shipyard vibrated slightly. Evan felt fear crawl into his chest. Saving her had shown the creature where Earth was. The next morning, news spread quickly. Videos appeared online showing strange waves and lights under the sea. Fishing boats reported equipment failing. One boat never returned. Military ships gathered near the coast. Helicopters passed overhead again and again. They were searching for answers, but they did not know what was coming. That evening, Evan noticed something strange near the shore. The water moved even without wind. Small shapes appeared near the surface, then disappeared again. At night, the first creature came out. It was not large like Lyra. It was smaller, thin, with long limbs and dark skin that reflected no light. It crawled onto the rocks silently, looking toward the land. Evan froze as he watched from a distance. The creature did not attack. It only watched, as if waiting for something bigger to arrive. Lyra saw it too. Fear filled her face. "Scout," she whispered. More shapes moved in the water behind it. Evan realized this was only the beginning. The next day, soldiers arrived near the shipyard. They blocked roads and placed equipment along the coast. Someone had tracked unusual energy readings coming from the area. They were close. Lyra stood slowly despite her injuries. "I go," she said. "If I stay, more come." Evan shook his head. "You can't fight this alone." She looked at him with quiet understanding. Not fight. End. Evan understood what she meant. She wanted to sacrifice herself to stop the hunter. Before he could answer, the ocean suddenly became silent. Completely silent. No whoops. No wind. The water pulled backward, exposing wet sand and rocks that were never seen before. Evan's heart pounded as he stared at the horizon. Something enormous began to rise from the sea. At first, it looked like a moving mountain underwater. Then a massive shadow broke the surface, larger than any ship, darker than the night itself. The water around it boiled as it moved. Lyra's voice trembled. "It found me." Evan stood frozen, watching the impossible shape rise higher and higher from the ocean depths. And in that moment, he realized the truth. The storm had never been the real danger. The real danger had just arrived. The ocean roared as the giant shadow moved closer to the shore. Military ships surrounded the area, their lights cutting across the dark water. Soldiers shouted orders through radios. Weapons were ready. Everyone waited for the creature to attack. Evan stood beside Lyra, watching the horizon. His hands shook, but he forced himself to stay calm. The thing rising from the sea did not move like an animal. It moved slowly, with purpose, like it already knew where to go. The first attack came without warning. A military ship fired a missile. The explosion lit up the night sky. Water rose high into the air. For a moment, everyone thought it worked. Then the shadow moved again. The explosion had done nothing. A massive shape broke the surface. Dark skin covered in moving lines. No clear eyes. No face Evan could understand. Only a long body that seemed endless beneath the water. The sea around it twisted violently. Waves smashed into ships, pushing them away like toys. People began to panic. More weapons fired. More explosions followed. But the creature did not stop. It kept moving toward the coast. Toward Lyra. She stepped forward slowly. The blue lines on her skin shined brighter than ever. "I end this," she said quietly. Evan grabbed her arm. "No." She looked down at him, surprised. "If I die," she said, "it stops." Evan shook his head. "You don't know that." She stayed silent. Deep down, she knew he was right. The hunter did not care about sacrifice. It cared about energy, about life. And Lyra carried something it wanted. Evan's mind raced. Fighting it with strength was useless. Humans were smaller, weaker. Their weapons failed. But humans did one thing well. They adapted. He remembered what the scientists on the radio had said earlier. Strange energy readings. The creature followed energy signals. An idea formed in his mind. Dangerous, maybe impossible, but human plans often were. Evan ran toward the soldiers and explained quickly. At first, they refused to listen. He was just a rescuer, not a scientist. But as ships continued to fail and the creature moved closer, they had no better option. The plan was simple. If the creature followed energy, they would give it something else to chase. Human ships gathered far from the city. Engines pushed to maximum power. Every energy source they had was turned on at once. Lights burned across the dark ocean like a second sunrise. The creature paused. For the first time, it changed direction. Slowly, the massive body turned away from the shore. Away from Lyra. Hope spread across the ships. The plan was working. Evan watched as the hunter followed the moving fleet into deeper water. Humans were not stronger than it, but they were clever enough to confuse it. Lyra looked at Evan with surprise. Your people risk everything. Evan gave a small smile. That's what humans do. But the moment did not last long. The creature suddenly stopped moving. The ocean became still again. The bright lights of the ships reflected on the water. For a second, everything looked peaceful. Then the energy scanner screamed. The creature had stopped following the ships. It had learned. The massive body turned slowly, scanning the ocean again. Searching. Lyra's glowing marks faded as she hid her energy. The ships reduced power. For a moment, the hunter seemed confused. Then its massive shape shifted. It locked onto something new. Evan felt a cold fear run through him as alarms rang around the fleet. The creature was no longer chasing the ships. It was chasing him. Somehow, during the rescue, during the contact in the sea, it had marked him. Lyra's voice broke with fear. It knows you. Evan stared at the dark water as the massive shadow began moving straight toward his position. Humanity's plan had worked. But now, the hunter had chosen a new target. And this time, the target was human. The ocean felt endless that night. Evan stood on the deck of the small command ship, staring into the dark water. Alarms echoed around him. Soldiers moved quickly, shouting orders. Everyone knew the creature was coming, and it was coming for him. Far behind the ship, the sea slowly rose and fell. A massive shadow moved just under the surface, following without hurry. It did not rush. It did not panic. It knew he could not escape forever. Lyra stood beside him. The blue light on her skin was faint now, almost gone. She looked tired, but her eyes were calm. "This is my fault," she said softly. Evan shook his head. "No, I chose to help you." She looked at him, surprised by his answer. On her world, people avoided danger. Survival came first. But humans were different. They ran toward danger if someone needed help. That confused her. The ship moved farther into open sea. The city lights disappeared behind them. Only darkness remained. The plan was simple now. Lead the creature as far away from land as possible. If it stayed in deep water, fewer people would die. The ocean suddenly shook. The creature rose closer to the surface. A long dark shape circled the ship. Water lifted around it like a moving wall. Machines failed one by one. Lights flickered. Fear spread across the deck. Evan felt it too, but he forced himself to stay still. Running would not help. Fighting would not help. But humans never stopped trying. Scientists on another ship sent new data through the radio. The creature reacted strongly to combined energy signals, especially when alien energy and human technology mixed together. Evan looked at Lyra. An idea formed. Dangerous, maybe deadly, but it was their only chance. Lyra understood before he even spoke. She stepped forward slowly. Together, she said. The ships around them powered up again. Engines roared. Energy systems pushed beyond safe limits. Lyra released her energy at the same time. Blue lights spread across the ocean's surface like glowing water. The creature reacted instantly. It rushed toward them. At the last second, the ships separated, forming a wide circle. Energy signals crossed each other, confusing the hunter's senses. The creature turned wildly, unable to choose a single target. The ocean exploded with waves. For a moment, it lost direction. That was enough. A deep energy pulse fired from the center of the formation. Not a weapon, but a signal. A false trail leading far into the deepest part of the ocean. The creature followed it. Faster and faster, the massive shadow disappeared into the dark water below. The sea slowly became calm again. Minutes passed, then hours. The hunter did not return. Silence filled the ocean. People slowly realized it was over. The danger was gone. At sunrise, the sky turned orange above the quiet sea. Evan leaned against the railing, exhausted. The wind felt gentle now, almost peaceful. Lyra stood beside him, watching the horizon. "I cannot stay," she said quietly. "If I remain, it may come back." Evan nodded. He already knew. She knelt slightly, so her eyes were level with his. "You said saving me was choice, not mistake." Evan smiled weakly. "Yeah." She looked toward the ocean. "On my world, they will say humans are small, weak." She paused, then looked back at him. "But now I know. Humans are dangerous, because they care." The water around her began to glow softly. She stepped into the sea, the waves rising gently around her body. Before disappearing beneath the surface, she looked at Evan one last time. "You saved more than me." Then she was gone. The ocean closed above her, calm and endless. Evan watched the sun rise in silence. He thought about the moment he jumped into the storm, believing he had made the worst mistake of his life. Maybe it was a mistake, but sometimes the biggest mistake becomes the reason the world survives. And somewhere deep beneath the ocean, a giant guardian now remembered humanity, not for its power, but for its heart.